Hello everyone, I hope everybody's doing well. I just want to talk about, and we talked about this many times over the years, but it's important to talk about, and it really is, and I've said it in my community post just recently, about the Irish language. Now, I would love to be able to speak Irish. As you know, I am dyslexic, so it is atrocious to write in English and to speak in English without knowing, to try and learn Irish. Now, I tried learning Irish when I was in national school, and then I got an exception and stuff because basically the teachers give up on me. Because I wouldn't really blame people with dyslexia. It's hard. It's not easy to learn English and to count to count numbers, etc. It isn't easy. Even I was in Finland recently and I tried to learn a bit of Finnish and I'm hopeless. Because people with dyslexia are just not built to learn different languages. So unfortunately, my parents didn't have that opportunity to ever speak Irish. So if they taught me when I was young, when I grew up, maybe I could have been able to do that. But unfortunately, I wasn't. But it's regrettable. But it's such a sad thing to say, because if you look at the map, particularly of just native Irish speakers, etc., from before the famine, even, it's absolutely insane. And especially when you look at it now and nowadays, it's non-existent based in a lot of areas. Some parts of Donegal, some parts of Galway, and that's about it really. Obviously, it's not spoken much at all, and it's unfortunate because the Irish language is unique. And it's unfortunate because, again, when people don't use it, it dies out, and that's an unfortunate thing. And again, all this comes back from the colonial times, of course, when the British came here. And of course, they spoke English, the aristocracy spoke English, etc. Then obviously through colonialism, if England never came here, we would all be speaking Irish. But I know people would argue, yeah, it would have been good to speak English, and even if the British never came here, because obviously English is really a universal language. A lot of African countries, Australia, the United States, England, a lot of Europe too speak English in a lot of terms too. Like, it's the universal language, I suppose, in a way too. But English is a lot more easy to learn, take for example, than Finnish or other languages. Because of its universal, etc. But it's obviously still be difficult in some regards too. But it is sad to see. When you look at the map, the erosion of the Irish language, and thankfully it is making a bit of a comeback. I have seen groups and stuff. In different parts of the country, meeting up, say, on a Saturday morning and speaking a bit of Irish maybe for half an hour, etc., etc. And I've seen that in Tipperary, actually. There's a place in Tipperary, they do it every Saturday. They meet up, there's about maybe 20 of them, which is great. It's a good few young people too. I think there's probably 9 or 10 young people, which is very good to see. But they turn up and they speak Irish, just totally in Irish for half an hour. Whatever the week's topics, etc., they speak totally in Irish. And it's good to see, of course, it's good to see. And I encourage anybody, in school, etc., to, if you can learn it, again, people with dyslexia, to be generally honest with you, we're hopeless in terms of that, in learning a second language. But do try, if you have the opportunity, do try, do your best. But, it's important, even just for the basic things, it's important to learn about our culture, because too, the Irish language is linked to our culture, our heritage, a collective suffering. I hate to use the word collective, but what the Irish people experience over generations, the genocide, the famine, etc., the whole independence of Ireland, the fight for Irish independence, Irish sovereignty, etc., because that's what it all comes back to the Irish language, Irish identity. And I know the Irish government hate that word, that Ireland could have the idea of sovereignty and identity. We couldn't have that in modern Ireland 2026. But no, it is important. It really is, and I can't. I wish I could. If I didn't have dyslexia, I probably could be able to speak Irish to you now. But even just the basic words like bonniu and stuff, milk, and madra is dog, and doors is door. There's other things here, but I can't think it off the top of my head. But as I say, I was hopeless. Making sentences in Irish and stuff. I remember even doing it. Like, the other people in my class, and this is the sad thing about it too, that a lot of people in my class, my age, when I was kept back in national school too, they could speak like a sentence in Irish, and I could never do any, pretty much, even a sentence. And it always kind of felt odd to me when I was younger, but it explained that it's dyslexia, etc. But it never, you can see why the teachers just said he's hopeless, because the rest of them could do simple sentences, like simple, very, very simple. And I couldn't do it. To be generally honest, I couldn't really, I don't even think I could count the 20 when I was like in junior infant, stuff like that. And it's dyslexia, I suppose. But it took a long time for me to learn the basics in terms of adding and stuff. And still to this day, I'm not that good at it. And I will be honest with you on that. But but I do say to people, if you can, if you don't have a learning disability like dyslexia, try it, do it, try and do it. It's important. Even though isn't every not you won't be going around every day speaking Irish, but it's nice to know a bit, if you can. But as I say, it is a sign of colonialism. It is really, and because that's what happened. The British came here and of course enforced all their laws and their way of life on us, and that's really what happened. That's really what's happened in a lot of countries around the world too. When you think of it, I even just used the example of Finland. They still learn Swedish in school, even though nobody speaks really Swedish. Mainly because the Swedish Democrats, there's a Swedish minority in Finland, and there's a party in Finland that go into every coalition government, the Swedish Democrats, so Swedish Social Democrats. They go into a coalition government with literally every government, and the main focus of them is just keeping Swedish as the second language of Finland. Obviously, Finnish is first, but even obviously Sweden owned Finland for hundreds of years, and then of the Imperial Russia, of course, the Grand Duchy of Finland. What I'm trying to say is, for smaller countries like Finland and Ireland and even Norway and Denmark, it's the very small population. Obviously, Irish people, there's more Irish people in the world, and I suppose all of them combined, to be genuinely honest with you. But it's important because the smaller countries, your language can come extinct, and it's important to keep it alive because obviously, the Swedish minority in Finland, the majority of people before Finland gained independence and stuff spoke Swedish. Carl Gustav Mannerheim spoke Swedish in a lot of cases too. And a lot of people spoke Russian, of course, but you get what I'm saying. But for small countries, this is important. But I'm just using that example. It's important to have an identity too. It's an identity too, separate from being English and stuff like that. Because you hear people saying, "Oh, you're English" when you're Irish and stuff. The worst thing to say to be Irish person. But yeah, let me know what you think. Can you speak Irish? Can you speak any Irish? Let me know. As I say, I'm deeply regretted in life that I am dyslexic and stuff. I am a bit sour on that, but to be totally honest, I can't speak like a full sentence. I would love to be able to just speak a full sentence off the tongue here, but at last, I suppose we're all built differently. We all do different things, but it's unfortunate because I would generally love to speak for a minute or two here, or just end off like in Irish and stuff. But I wouldn't I wouldn't shame the Irish language. I could concoct something in my head, but it would be atrocious if God only knows what it could mean. I don't even think an Irish speaker. I think you might need an interpreter to interpret if I was going to say a sentence in Irish. But anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe more and bye.